As many of you know, the Commission to End Homelessness, which consisted of state, municipal, and county officials, along with private sector advocates and service providers, developed a proposal to move from a shelter-based housing system to a housing-based system. The Commission's actions truly are unique. No other state in the nation has put together such a comprehensive statewide analysis and plan that looks at the full range of the homelessness population. The Commission worked off the premise that keeping a family in the home is the best homelessness prevention action. It sounds simple, but with the foreclosure crisis and with the high cost of housing, it is increasingly difficult. A successful tenancy is a permanent home, and access to affordable housing is critical, as is helping families to support themselves through asset development, which was, I know, mentioned as well. To do this and to keep people out of shelter, the Commission's motto, and I heard Leader Rushing mention it, the right resources to the right people at the right time. The Commission's report on uniform assessment of individuals and families, true coordination and an early warning system that can happen at new regional coordinating entities, emphasize regional, not creating a new bureaucracy, but through bolstering and coordination among existing network of providers. The Commission envisions a system that starts with stabilizing existing tenancies, prevent homelessness, prevention, rehousing people before they enter shelter, and linking people to appropriate community supports to find and keep stable housing situations and to improve their economic position. Housing First, supportive housing, will be a major part of this strategy because we know it works with families and individuals. The first step is to assess people and get them housed as quickly as possible. Immediately thereafter, we identify the strengths and challenges facing families and the households, providing a clear understanding of health, employment, housing, substance abuse, domestic violence, and education history. We then have to provide the case management support to ensure a successful tenancy and support. Housing First, which provides housing and supportive services, costs about $966 per month per family. Shelter stays cost on average of $2,960 per month per family. The Home and Healthy for Good Housing First initiative has shown a notable reduction in the cost on related social support systems once people are in stable housing. This year, the Housing First model had a success rate of 79% in helping tenants stay housed in the state's tenancy preservation program. In the long term, we know that putting appropriate supports in place will not cost the Commonwealth more money than it does to provide the shelter that is the primary response today. Ending homelessness, therefore, is one of those rare opportunities where doing the right thing is also the most cost-effective thing. But we all know that we just can't move from funding shelter beds to housing without ensuring the supports necessary to house people successfully. The Commission estimated the cost of doing this could be approximately $10 million for phase one of this transition, and the administration is on board. In an extremely tight budget, we found a way to meet this need. The budget that will be released, or has been released today, includes $8.25 million in FY09 to support the first phase of this transition. This funding would be in addition to a $1.75 million investment made by Mass Housing to support this initiative, resulting in $10 million. The FY09 funding is provided through a reserve account, which will provide for the flexible programming of resources by the Interagency Council on Homelessness and Housing. The Secretary of Administration and Finance would approve a spending plan submitted by the Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development in consultation with the Council. Money could be targeted to areas recommended by the Commission, including but not limited to rental assistance, emergency assistance, and the development of asset tools that will provide the necessary means to identify and serve homeless populations and those who are at risk of homelessness. It's now the job of the Interagency Council on Homelessness and Housing to flesh out the details and implement those recommendations. Over the course of the next year, the Council will work to determine and define the operating agreements which will govern state agency cooperation and collaboration to homelessness. We will look to develop a memorandum of agreement among the various state agencies that work on homelessness and housing issues. We want to approve and implement an assessment tool for determining the need for housing and related resources and supports, as referenced as the Uniform Assessment Tool. We want to implement and evaluate 6 pilot projects, expansions of existing high-performing programs with demonstrated success housing and supporting formerly homeless families and individuals. And also establishing the regional coordinating entities that Leader Rushing referenced, and also provide a flexible pool of housing assistance, vouchers, cash assistance, case management, to facilitate the transition from homelessness to permanent housing. And again, through some of the discussions that took place through the Commission, we've already worked to deliver in some areas as it relates to vouchers and others to help with the problem as we deal with it right now. And we also want to make sure that we have measures so that we can all be accountable, both those of us in government and outside of government. And we'll be working with Dennis Culhane to continue the work and expand it within the various agencies of state government, but also among providers and partners. This is a very big challenge, I think, as everyone in this room understands full well. But we are up for it and committed to seeing people in stable housing. Providing affordable and accessible housing in the Commonwealth remains one of the biggest challenges for the state and our local and regional partners. Many of whom are doing great work in this area. We've put together 10-year plans, 5-year plans. We want to make sure we're working collaboratively with our local municipal partners and other providers, as well as private developers and housing advocates. A safe and affordable place for workers to live is an essential component of a thriving economy. And study after study has shown that. Harry Stone, I know, spoke earlier, and we have seen how important that is. This is just the start and the end with the Commission's report, but the Commission will continue to meet on or ask a component of the Commission to meet to work and assist the Interagency Council in its work. This administration's commitment to properly support and preserve the 50,000 units of state public housing recognizes that these units are one of the state's few housing resources that are truly affordable to anyone, no matter how low their income. And as a former housing search worker, I know full well how important it is that our public housing stock and our public housing authorities are supported and get the resources that they need in helping us in this challenge. Many of the seniors and families living out there, public housing is the physical embodiment of the safety net that protects them from a fall into homelessness. From tens of thousands of others on waiting lists, it represents the hope of a stable, affordable home in a state where fair market rents often exceeds a household's entire income. To bring our entire portfolio up to sustainable condition, in its first year, the Patrick Murray administration increased public housing subsidies by 33%, nearly doubling the annual allocation for capital improvements, and provided a precedent-setting volume cap allocation to bring millions in private tax credit equity to public housing restoration. In November of this past year, a $1.1 billion bond bill to support housing capital projects, which included $500,000 to upgrade state-owned public housing. In our House budget, which we've filed, is an additional $13 million to fund subsidies to local housing authorities whose rental income does not meet the cost of operations. And also, our House 2 budget also provides $15 million to fund investments to the Mass Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which makes resources available for the creation and preservation of affordable housing throughout the state. And we continue to work in strengthening the division of banks and working with the House and the Attorney General and the Senate to make sure that we have better oversight as it relates to the mortgage crisis that we have in the state and across the country. The administration has promised to quantify the real cost of operating public housing as a foundation for a strategy to protect it. This study, which is underway, has engaged a panel of national housing experts that are experienced public and private housing managers. That study is in its final stage of completion. The bottom line is that the Patrick Murray administration is committed to providing safe, affordable housing for all of our residents. While it's most important to the families and to the individuals who need housing, and we all in this room know the stories very well, it's also critical to the overall economic well-being of our Commonwealth. It's our part of our strategy to be a leader in the 21st century. We cannot do it alone, which is why we welcome and look to join and build upon the partnership that all of you are involved in day and day out. So thank you, and we look forward to our work together.